Welcome everybody to the Shir, weekly Shir, Chassidus in English on Tuesday evenings, right here in Rechavia in Yerushalayim at 7:30 p.m. This Shir is a special Shir because it is the final Shir for the year of 5783, and we'll continue next year, which is, next year is already in 3 days from now, but the next year is going to be after Tishrei, after the holidays. Bezrat Hashem, it's a very busy month. But even though I arrived this morning, it was very important for me that we have a shir, we have a special one, and especially when it comes to Chassidus. Now, Thursday night, in 2 nights, is going to be the birthday of the third Chabad Rebbe, Rabbi Menachem Schneerson, the Tzemach Tzedek, the same name as our Rebbe. Actually, his wife had the same name as our Rebbe, Chaya Mushka. And there are a lot of similarities between the two Rebbes, and he was also the great-grandfather of the Rebbe. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it's a great-great-grandfather of our Rebbe. Okay, now the Rebbe, the Tzemach Tzedek, was born Erev Rosh Hashanah, the day before Rosh Hashanah. He was very unique in the sense in connecting two seemingly different parts of the Torah, that it should be like one. He was known to be, if not the most, one of the most leading authorities in halacha in the entire Europe in his time, 150 years ago. The Tzemach Tzedek, people flocked from all around, including for very, very serious halachic issues that came up. For example, he was, I think the word is notorious. It's a positive word, correct? Notorious for helping women that their husbands had either left them or there was a war, and it's called an aguna, and you need a very, very high authority to deal with those issues and to help them. They should be able to marry someone else, and that's just one example. At the same time, he has tens of books of Chassidus, of ma'amarim, of discourses that he said and he wrote. One of them is called Or HaTorah, and other Derech Mitzvotecha. We've learned in the past some of the Derech Mitzvotecha that he wrote when he was 12 years old. Very, very deep sefer, yeah. And so basically, he personified the very special blend between connecting the revealed part of the Torah and the mystical part of the Torah. And that's pretty much the point of what this whole discourse is all about, the essence of Chasidus. The essence of Chasidus indicates to us that it's not, God forbid, 2 different Torahs. The revealed Torah, the Mishnah, the Talmud, all the many, many commentaries. And then some people think that the Chassidus is a different Torah. The Kabbalah, the Zohar, the books of the Arizal, the Chassidus, the Baal Shem Tov. So, if someone thinks that it's 2 different Torahs, the answer is Chas v'Shalom, God forbid, it's only one Torah. Matan Torah, the giving of the Torah was once, and there will never be another Matan Torah again. And it's a very beautiful concept to be able to show and to prove how these 2 important parts of the Torah are one parcel, are one concept. So now, the Rebbe takes for an example, we learned at great length, in a nutshell, that the essence of Chasidus is that Chasidus is the essence. I just said the entire book in once. The essence of Chasidus is that Chasidus is the essence. In 10 words, I said the entire book. What does that mean? Essence means that it's the core. Essence, the core, exactly. There are many things that happen around the world, but when you get to the core, then you're connected to everything, because the core is pure. the core of anything, spirituality, materialism. Once you get to the core, it's emet, it's truth, and truth shines through everything. So therefore, Chasidus doesn't only have its own beautiful interpretation. Thank you so much. The Chasidus also adds light into the many different ways of interpreting the Torah. Thank you so much. We have Pshat, the literal translation, the Remez, a hint, Drush, which is like a Medrash, a little deeper, and then you have Sod, secret, which is the Kabbalah, the mystical interpretation of the Torah. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, she'akol niyah b'dvaro. So, what is the example that the Rebbe uses to bring out this point? The Modeh, which is really getting back to the whole idea of the essence, the etzem. Once again, we're talking about if there's one point, pivotal moment in the day, which our essence shines, is the split moment that we wake up. That split moment that our neshama comes back, and that sets the tone for the entire day. That's the essence of the day. So what do? We say Modeh, thank you Hashem. And there are different ways how to understand this passage of Modeh, according to different interpretations of the Torah. And then we're going to learn about how the Chasidus interpretation is the cherry on the cake, which really is so beautiful and powerful. Okay, so now we're going to learn on page 69, and in English soon, page 68, we're going to learn how the remez, the hint. We learned what the hint is in one of the previous chapters, and that is that Modeh alludes to Tchiyat HaMitim, to the revival of the dead when Mashiach will come. This is an opportunity to mention that we're dedicating this shir in memory of, unfortunately, a couple of passings that happened today. Very, very sad. In the last few hours, a very young shliach in the city of Ofakim. His father, Rabbi Hershkowitz, his parents, are long-time shluchim there. Unfortunately, a half a year ago, he was young, he had a baby son, and a half a year ago, they found a very, very aggressive illness, and unfortunately, he passed away. So his name was Shimon ben Yisrael. We dedicate. It's unbearable. This news is just terrible. And of course, the great singer Dedi Gracher. Dedi, you heard the singer? Amazing singer. He sang a lot. He did amazing mitzvahs. He sang with all. He has a number of playlists. There's a school for in America called HASC for children that are ill, and every year he was a star. Very often at least, he was a star. They have a big show, and he was a big tzaddik. He unfortunately very, very sad. So we talk about Tchiyas HaMeisim, the revival of the dead. We really wait for that every single moment, for our loved ones to come back, and Hashem should help that this shouldn't happen again. Hashem created the world, and we should live forever. That's how He created the world. The fact that people pass away is only plan B. That's not the way things should be. That's not the original way Hashem made the world. So we're just waiting for things to, if it was a new thing, that's one thing. But we're just waiting for things to go back the way it was in the original plan. So I think we're asking for something very, very rational. So let's not get too far off the subject. When a person goes to sleep, it's 1/60th of death. And so when a person says Modeh, it's waking up in the morning is similar to Tchiyat HaMitim. So that's what it means. Hechazarta bi nishmati, that you have returned my neshama. Rabba munasecha, that from the fact that you gave me back my neshama this morning, Now I know how great is my faith in you, that there's going to be a much greater type of awakening, so to speak, which is the revival of the dead when Mashiach will come. So that's how we understand this passage of Modeh according to the remez, according to the hint of the Torah, according to the way the Torah, this type of interpretation. So how does Chassidus add to this? So let's do the Hebrew. Page 69, paragraph, chapter Yud Gimel, chapter 13. Kemosha b'chelik hapshat, just like in the simple meaning of Modeh. Zeh shebemodeh eina Chasidus mosifa od perush. So we said that Chasidus does not add another interpretation. No safala perush pashut, in addition to the simple meaning. Sherigam al pi Chasidus aperish lemodeh kipshuto. Obviously, even if you look from the prism of Chasidus, it doesn't omit the simple interpretation. It's an added interpretation on top of the literal interpretation. Hu hoda'ah, what is the literal interpretation? Hoda'ah, thanking Hashem, al shechazarta binishmasi, for giving me back my neshama. Now after the parentheses, Ella, rather, shemavhira, ume'ira pirush ze atzmo. Chasidus takes this interpretation and brings it to a greater light, as we'll see in a moment. Al yidei hadgashata, through emphasizing mahi nishmato chayuto shel Yehudi. What is? It's okay. Just push the button on the side. Yesher koach. Through emphasizing what is a neshama. You say, you gave me back my neshama. Sounds nice. The simple meaning is my breath. Call a neshama. For every breath I thank Hashem, I praise Hashem. But what is a neshama? That's what the Tanya talks about. Chayuto shel Yehudi, the life of a Jew. The almahi hoda'ato, and for what is his thanking? Kainhu b'chelik haremez. So too, in the portion of the remez, of the more of a hidden way of understanding the Torah, Hadrush is even more hidden, like the Medrash. V'asod, and the secret of Modeh, Chassidut me'ira u'mavhira et hapirushim eila atzma. And Chassidus explains and lightens up these interpretations. Let's do 68, the first paragraph of chapter 13. Resurrection as a daily phenomenon. It can be seen from this exposition of the simple meaning of Modeh that Chassidus does not add another interpretation to the one already given to the Pshat of Modeh. For according to Chassidus, also the plain meaning is the thanksgiving for restoring my soul within me. Also Chassidus recognizes that there is a simple meaning. Rather, Chassidus sharply clarifies and illuminates this very meaning by emphasizing what is the soul and vitality of a Jew, and for what he gives thanks. The same holds true for the interpretations of Remez, Drush, and Sot and Modeh. Chassidus strikingly clarifies and illumines.
Where? Illumines?
Yeah, is that how you say that word?
Uh-huh.
Okay, great. Clarifies and illumines these same interpretations as can be demonstrated through the following analysis. Okay, bottom paragraph of 69 in the Hebrew. The hint that we say, the remez, that when the neshama comes back in the morning, it reminds us and it alludes to the revival of the dead, without the explanation of Chassidus, which we're going to see soon. It seems to be a very, very far-off, distant hint. What does that have to do with the price of tea in China? One can ask. Waking up in the morning, a person's alive. It's just a very, very shallow level of life while the person is sleeping, and now it's much more vivid. Just taking an example, I don't know if this is a good example, but when you turn on a car, The battery, even before you turn on the car, apparently, on some level, the battery is working. What's the proof? That the time, when you turn on the car, the time was going the whole time. The clock is the current time of when you turn on the car. And other examples as well. So it's not like the car is dead, and then you need to be a professional repairman. Thank you. to go. It's just technical. Just wake up. Hello, wake up. Woo. But Tchias HaMesim, it's far off. That's talking about an unbelievable miracle that Hashem is going to make, that those that have passed on will come back to life. So it seems to be a very, very... That's what it means. A remez means like a hint. A hint is something... It's not really... You can't really compare it. A very, very distant comparison between this and what you're comparing it to. In addition to the fact that sleep is only 1/60th of death, and not real death, the only novelty of the neshama coming back into the body after sleep is only with the connection of the neshama with the body. It's there, it's just not so connected. So when Hashem wakes us up, He's connecting us more. However, on the other hand, the innovation of revival of the dead, it's going to be also in the body and in the neshama itself. Before Hashem will bring us back to life, before Hashem will bring the bodies of those that have passed on back to life, only the luzbon will remain. Unfortunately, yesterday was 9/11, and they sent around some videos, pretty traumatic videos, and it reminds us that probably those bodies, with such a high level, what is it, 2,000? 3,000, I'm talking about the level of heat.
Yeah, 3,000 degrees.
3,000 degrees. It was probably very, very quick till the bodies were nothing. Such a high level of heat. But the fact is that the luzbon, which is the bone, a tiny bone which is on top of the spine, that's the essence. Hashem will recreate every body the way it was at the time of the perishing from that luzbon. And that's an extreme example. That's why I'm using it. But the truth is, by every example, there's some tzaddikim, their bodies remain complete even for hundreds of years, and this is a fact, even after the passing. But often it doesn't. It's not like that. But there is at least the luzbon which remains. So how can you compare it? The body is going to be a different body, if you will. The body that was before the passing is almost gone. And the new body is going to... It's not like when a person wakes up in the morning, when the body is there, it's just a question of waking the guy up. That's as far as the body is concerned. Bottom line, from this understood that the same thing is with the neshama. Top of 71. There's going to be a major change, a major innovation in the neshama itself, because the body and the neshama are dependent on one another. And when Hashem will bring those that have passed on back to life, from this bone, this luzbon, an entire body will be recreated. So too by the neshama. The neshama is going to have to go through a process. You see, when it comes to body, we have at least we think we have a little more of understanding, because we're human beings, and we see the body, and we realize that it was like this, and it's going to be like this. But the neshama, we have no clue what the neshama is now. We don't visualize the neshama. But we can rest assured, what the Rebbe is telling us over here, that the neshama is also going to have to go through a major process in its development, in its new development, in the Messianic era. Ad shetibaneh, until it will be quote unquote rebuilt, reformed, remade, enhanced. V'tikanes begufon, will go into the body that has also been remade. Ubemela, therefore, haremes shebachzat haneshama l'tchias hamesim u'rak ben ba'alma. So the remez, when you say that Modeh Ani alludes to the revival of the dead, is very, very remote. It's a long shot. It's similar. It's a very far comparison. In other words, like this. Just to explain, this is a question the Rebbe is asking. And then he's going to bring in how the Chasidic interpretation really brings it all together. I'll explain what I mean. We have a rule that Torah is the Torah of life and the Torah of truth. So if Torah brings an example of something specific, then even the metaphor has to be accurate. I'll give you even a deeper one. Are you ready for this? It says in the pasuk, "Vayidaber Shlomo Melech, King Solomon, the smartest of all men, Shloshet alafim mashal." He was so smart that he would say 3,000 parables, metaphors, in order for someone to understand something. So Chassidus is something fascinating. Are you ready? It's not just that he was so smart that he was able to think of. You want to explain how how to do something spiritual. Let's say, for an example, let's say he wants to bring an example of Shabbat. So he wants to bring an example of work and rest. So it's not only that he was such a genius, he was so knowledgeable that he was able to bring you 3,000 examples of work, different types of work, and rest. Now we can understand how Hashem rested on the seventh day, and why we. But Chassidus says it means much deeper. Shlomo HaMelech, he was able to bring a deep concept, 3,000 levels. So you have a very lofty concept, and he was able to explain to someone that was a little less smart than him, and then with another example, then another example, then someone that's even less smart. Even he was able to calculate. It's unbelievable genius. It's not just, even if it was just 3,000 itself, that would be smart enough. But he was able to know the different levels, to relate to 3,000 different types of people. That's unbelievable. Until someone who's on such a low intellectual level that even that person should be able to understand the concept, the lofty, deep, philosophical concept. Why am I emphasizing this? Because we have a rule, which I said earlier. The rule is that Torah is true. And if Torah decides to bring a parable for something, it has to be totally accurate. The best example for that is, talk about examples. The best example for that is that we talk about the month of Elul, which is almost up, the king in the field. We have several talks and discourses from the Rebbe explaining the different details of the metaphor. So one can ask, Ribono Shel Olam, Almighty God, like, what's the difference if he said this word or that word, or let's say the metaphor of Rabbi Berditchev of Shabbat Chazon, the Shabbos before Tisha B'Av, that just like a child, that he plays in the mud, he rips his suit, and then the parent puts give him a second one, and the third one puts up until he hangs up in the closet until he's a good boy, and then he is deserving of the suit. Same Beis Hamikdash. First one was destroyed, second one was destroyed, the third one is waiting. Every year Shabbos Chazon we see the Beis Hamikdash. There are countless ma'amorim discourses and talks on the Rebbe explaining this metaphor. Like, what's the big deal? It's only a metaphor, for heaven's sakes. And that's not. And the answer is no. If the Torah brings a metaphor, or if Rebbe Yitzchak, or if the Alter Rebbe brought a certain parable of the king, he's always in the palace, and once in a while he comes out to the field. Then every detail, how he walked out, and what his approach is to the people, and how they can come close to him, and how to continue that. There are many details, and each one of them, it can be expanded upon. So it's not just a metaphor. So a hint is also a type of metaphor. A person wake up in the morning. Oh, you want to know how great it is? Look at something which is much more extreme. A body awaking, being revived after having passed. So that's also a type of metaphor, and it has to be exact. It's not just a metaphor because we're bored and we're looking for some examples. It's meaningful. It's deep. So let's do the next paragraph. Uba Torah Chasidus and the teachings of Chassidus come and explain. Shegam b'achzarat haneshama, that also when the neshama comes back, hachidush hu lo rak b'kishur neshama b'aguf. It's not only technical. Oh, the neshama is complete. The body is complete, and Hashem is just magnifying the relationship, and therefore the person is able to wake up in the morning. It's much more than that. It's much deeper than that. Ela b'aguf gam b'aguf haneshama atzmam. That the chidush, the innovation, is in the body itself and in the neshama itself. Therefore, we say that every day, every morning, we become a new being. What's the proof? The proof is that some interpret Modeh compare it to Tchias HaMesim, revival of the dead. That means that the innovation, the beauty, the accomplishment that happens every morning is not just technical between just to connect a couple of wires. It's real. It's deep. It's essential. Ki b'chol rega v'rega, because at every moment, mitavet kol habriya mechadash mamash, the entire creation becomes created literally from zero, from nothing, ex nihilo. Just like when Hashem created the world. That's amazing. So in other words, we think, oh, we're living, we this whole share, or whatever you're doing for an hour, I think we're doing but really every nanosecond, Hashem recreates everything from scratch, and you hear the entire sentence that I'm saying, but really as I'm saying the sentence, 1,000,000 times, we are nothing, and then we're recreated. Every single second. So it's almost as if the revival of the dead is not a big deal, because Hashem does it every nanosecond. Ella, you could say that for every second of the day. But on a larger scale, if you will, more specifically, waking up in the morning is more similar to the revival of the dead than every moment of the day when we don't really recognize how we are being recreated from scratch, from zero, every single second. Ki bitui v'hitgalut, beautiful expression. V'hitgalut ha'chidush shel habriya shemetavet tamid ma'ayin layesh u'b'chol boker dafka. Because a greater expression and a revelation of this innovation, that the entire creation becomes created every moment, is specifically every morning.
But it's from nothing.
Correct, from nothing. It's fascinating. We could talk about this 1,000,000 times, Ein Sof, for days and years, and it doesn't become less fascinating. At least to me. Then in the next paragraph, we're going to learn what brings about this, I don't know if I'm making up this word, this fascination, this concept, this amazing idea that Hashem recreates. Chassidus is the one that brings this to light. Because if you don't have it, you just say, oh, what's the very, very far distance between wake up in the morning and revival of the dead? That's like two different directions, east and west. But we'll see in a second why it's Dafka Chasidus that brings it to light. Okay, let's go back to page 68 in the English, bottom paragraph. On the level of Remez, the allusion to the resurrection of the dead in the restoration of the soul every morning without the elucidation of Chasidus is, it would appear, very remote. For not only is sleep merely 1/60th of death and not actually death itself, which that already seems like it's a long shot, but the entire act of renewal and restoring the soul after sleep is restricted to the reconnection, almost as if technical I'm calling it, of the soul with the body. Whereas the renewal at the time of the resurrection of the dead is much deeper, will affect both body and soul proper, as we'll see in a second. Prior to the resurrection, the loose bone, which we talked about earlier at greater length, will be, page 70, the only remnant left of the entire body. So we see that the body will be totally recreated. And from this fact, it follows that the soul also undergo a fundamental change, since the soul and body are in general related, corresponding to each other. At the time of the resurrection, a complete body will be constructed from this bone. And in similar fashion, the soul will also pass through several stages until it too will be built and enter the body. And hence, the allusion to the resurrection of the dead in the morning restoration of the soul is but a faint representation. Bevakasha. So now the next paragraph. So what does Chasidus add? Chasidus, however, proceeds to clarify and explain that even in the daily restoration of the soul, the renewal is not only, I'm sticking in my word over here, technical, because I'm getting back to the essence of this entire talk, which is but the essence, verse technical. So I'm going one line back. The renewal is not only a reconnection of the soul to the body, but it also, in fact, is a regeneration of the body and soul themselves. Which is why it is said that every morning a person becomes a new being. Can I just finish the paragraph? Thanks. This is because at every instant the entire creation is being brought into existence anew, literally, just as in the first 6 days of the original creation of the world. However, the resurrection of the dead is still indicated specifically in the morning restoration of the soul, because the precise expression and revelation of the continuous creation of the world, ex nihilo yesh me'ayin, is clearest in every morning. But it doesn't mean that it's not true the rest of the day. The same applies the rest of the day. L'chaim. Yes.
So there's a continuity, and every moment there's something new added.
Correct.
To that.
Correct. What you're saying is very, very profound. What you just said. You just said that there are two different, in a sense, opposite things happening in the same moment. On one hand, you're saying it's new, because every moment Hashem creates us from new. On the other hand, it's continuous. So make up your mind. Is it this or that? And the answer is, like in many other scenarios, that you look coming from an external perspective. We're human beings. What do we see? We don't see the deep interpretation. We don't see the deep perspective. We see what we see. So we see everything's continuing. We don't see. You see a full sentence, and so, or you see 10 minutes of something. It didn't happen in millions. You see it. It's just one long continuation. But the more we learn Chasidus, and the deeper we get, and the more we review again and again these concepts, hopefully they become more real. I'll give you an example. when you learn the third, when you learn the second portion of the Tanya, Shar HaYichud VaEmunah, which we have on our playlist. I gotta put in a plug for our YouTube channel. We have Shar HaYichud VaEmunah, Shiurim that we did. The Alter Rebbe explains in a very detailed way that every single object in the world is totally dependent on Hashem. The real life force of everything is the neshama, the spark of godliness that's inside every single thing. So even though we may look at this as being, what do you mean? What's holding this cup over here and not falling down? So a regular person will say, a human being will say, what's the table? The table gets in the way of gravity. But when you learn Chassidus, you realize that the cup has a divine spark. The water inside the cup has a divine spark. The tablecloth has a divine spark. The table, which is made up of plastic and metal underneath, that's holding it up. So just like we understand that it's the table that's holding this up, we have to realize that it's really Hashem which is holding it up. Why? Because if Hashem doesn't want the table to be here, He doesn't have to hit it, doesn't have to burn it, doesn't have to melt or break it. He just has to take away the divine spark and boom, it's gone. So that means that at every single moment, every single material object in the world is totally dependent on Hashem. Without Hashem, it's nothing. Literally nothing. That's unbelievable. So I'm just giving you that in a nutshell, but the more you learn the Shar HaYichud VaEmunah, that becomes more of a reality to us, even though we're human beings and it's hard for us to fathom these deep, real concepts. So let's do the last paragraph on page 71, which is going to bring us to the end of the chapter. The true feeling that when Hashem gives His own neshama back, and we say the Modeh with all our heart and soul, and we thank Hashem for giving us back our neshama. When do you feel it? When the Yechida is revealed. We talked about this at great length a few classes ago, that the Yechida is the highest level of the neshama. And when a person wakes up in the morning, that's when the Yechida shines. We brought an example of when a baby is born. And the first moment the baby is born, you wait for that cry. That cry is that first breath that the baby takes. The first breath of the entire life. It's an amazing, amazing thing just to hear and to think about. On a similar note, every single morning, the first breath is the first breath. It sets the tone for the entire day. So it has to be. With all of its life and vitality. That's when the Yechida shines. First thing in the morning. Let's continue. The first four levels before Yechida. Nefesh, Ruach, Neshama, and Chaya. Because they're all in the worldly realm. Nefesh ba'asiyah. Nefesh in the lowest world of asiyah. Ruach is in Yetzirah. Neshama is in Bria. And Chaya is in Atzilus. Harei, ma shenirgash etzlam b'pshitos hu mitzios oilamos. So what they feel on a very basic level is the category of the world. Because we have not yet reached the essence. We're still talking about different levels that are within the realm of the world. Top of 73. The hahergesh she'ein shum mitziut la'olamot the chol mitziutam mitchadeshet tamid me'ayin ve'efes ha'muchlat. The feeling that worldly matters don't really take up any place. The whole being of the worlds becomes renewed at every moment from total nothingness. That's a new concept. You look at the world. Can I see the world is being renewed every moment? No, because you're looking from a very worldly perspective, very materialistic perspective. So what do you expect of us? That's how we are. We're human beings, and from our perspective, we don't connect to this to this deeper, lofty level of beyond the world. V'rak b'chinas hayechida, only the level of yechida, which is the highest level of the neshama, shelamala mi'olamot, which is much higher than worldly matters. Nirgash etzla b'pshitus shekol ha'olamos him ayin b'efes ha'muchlat. For yechida can relate to this concept of surpassing the worldly matters, and that every single object in the world becomes renewed from literal nothingness. The chol mitziutam, and that their whole being, hu chidush gomor, is a complete innovation, shemitchadesh tamid, which constantly becomes renewed, b'chol rega v'rega, at every moment. Let's do this in English. Back to page 70. Bottom paragraph on top of the line. One truly recognizes and feels this constant creation ex nihilo only through the revelation of the Yechida, the highest level of the Neshama, the highest out of 5. Since the 4 levels of Narnach, Nefesh, Ruach, Neshama, and Chaya, are themselves inherently bounded by their respective worlds. Each one corresponds to another world, the spiritual world. Excuse me. Nefesh is Asiya, the lowest level, lowest world. Ruach, which means spirit, is Yetzirah, the second to lowest world. Neshama in Bria. The Neshama, the third level of the Neshama, corresponds to Bria. And Chaya, the 4th level, corresponds to Atzilut. Their spontaneous apprehension is the indisputable existence of their worlds. Each one can relate to the world to which they correspond.
What does it mean, correspond to the world?
Correspond, it's a good question. We have trying to think how to okay, Hashem made different creations on many different levels. So let me give you an example. We have the 10 Sfirot, the 10 luminaries, in the highest world of Atzilut. We also have these 10 Sfirot in the world of Bria. We also have them in Yetzirah. We also have them in Asiyah. We also have them intertwined in each individual Sfira. So we have Chachma out of Chachma, Bina out of Chachma, Da'at out of Chachma. Just like we have in Sfirat Omer. We have the week of Chesed Then we have Chesed of Chesed, Gevura of Chesed. Within each Midah, within each Sphira, within each luminary, each one is included of all. So, hopefully this idea is clear, that the 10 Sphirot of Atzilut correspond to the 10 Sphirot of Bria. Or, you could say the opposite. Excuse me. Because it starts with Atzilus. So when he comes down to Bria, one can ask, hey, what are these? I understand in Atzilut where you have these luminaries, but how do you have these luminaries in Bria? So the answer is going to be, these 10 luminaries, 10 Sfirot in Bria, you should know that they correspond, they're opposite, Zeh mul Zeh, of the 10 Sfirot in Atzilus. In other words, they're similar concepts. They're related. They're different. But this is easier to understand because it has the same names. Both in Atzilut and in Bria, etc., etc., you have the Chachma, Bina, Dad, Chesed, Gvurah, Teferet, Netzach, Hod, Yisod, Malchut. So it's easier for us to understand how these 10 levels correspond to the other 10 levels. Just like we understand that, we can hopefully also understand that we have 4 levels of A and 4 levels of B. We can't make this stuff up. But if the Rebbe tells it to us in a mimer, then it can make sense. You have the 4 lower levels of the neshama, nefesh, ruach, neshama, and chaya. You have the highest level of yichida. We're not talking about that for a moment. We're talking about the 4 lower levels. And we have also the 4 worlds, which indicates that even at Tzilut, which is not the kind of world that we know it to be, it's still called Olam. Olam is a world. Olam ha'atzilut. The fact itself that we refer to it in the sense of Olam, that itself, in a sense, gives it some kind of worldly, quote unquote, not real worldly, this is all spiritual world. It's not like I understand what the world of Asiya is, that I can explain to you what the world of Atzilus is. I don't know this or that. I'm just using the terminology. Hopefully from the terminology we can all receive some kind of insight into the fact that even Atzilus, on some level, in some way, is only a world. It's not all spiritual yet. I hope that was clear. I tried really hard. So that was the 4 lower levels of the neshama. Nefesh, ruach, neshama, and chaya. It's very great. They're spiritual. Different levels. Wow, it's awesome. But it's still the 4 lower levels. It doesn't come anywhere close to Yechida, as the Rebbe expanded upon one of the earlier chapters, that Yechida is a realm for itself, a world for itself, if you will. So then you have higher than Atzilut. So just like you have by Neshama, you have the highest level of Neshama is Yechida. Also in spirituality, you have a level of Keter, excuse me please, which is way higher than any realm of worldly matters. Totally surpassing, incomparable to the other 4 levels. That's all. It's a comparison. See that? We're trying to bring out the Yechida. That's what in order to bring out how beautiful, how pure Yechida is, we have to talk a little bit about the 4 lower levels and explain how they are related to worldly matters. Now even I can understand that Yechida is much, much higher. Okay? Much higher. On a level for itself, with no relation to the other 4.
So it's just a comparison. It's not that those 4 levels are in those worlds. It's just a moshel. It's not like that the first level of the soul is connected with the first world. That they are in that it's in that world. just to better understand just the emotional, or it's really in that world?
It could be in that world, but I cannot explain it.
Is that what
Not only that,
is that what the Rebbe means, that it's in that world, or the meaning is to say that it's just a comparison?
let's see the exact words. It says they themselves are found in those worlds.
So,
But the reason why it's so complicated is because, just like we said earlier about the midot, that each one is included of all. We have many different levels. So it's not just nefesh is in asiya, because you have nefesh of nefesh, ruach of nefesh, neshama of nefesh, and we also have in the worlds we have asiya of asiya, the Yetzira of Asiya, the Bria of Asiya, so on and so forth. So it can be very, very, I don't know if the word is complicated, it can be very, very technical. So because I don't have a way to explain it. Okay? So on some level it is in those worlds. Okay? Let's just finish off this paragraph and chapter. The feeling that there is no independent existence to the worlds whatsoever, and that their entire being is constantly created anew from the utter nothingness, is on these four planes a novel concept. Solely on the level of Yechida, which transcends all the worlds, is there and in it comprehension that all the worlds are absolute nothingness, and their entire existence is a completely new creation, which is continuously renewed at every moment. So, in short, in summary of what we learned tonight, we learned the idea that they have the remez, that the Modeh alludes to a revival of the dead, but according to the Chassidus, it works the other way. You see from the revival of the dead what happens to us every morning. Just like there's an extreme makeover by the revival of the dead when Mashiach will come, so too, every morning we have this idea. It's amazing. That every morning we have a total makeover. The truth is every moment, but every morning it's clear. Thank you for joining us. Be'ezrat Hashem, this should be a great preparation for the new year. New year, a new day, the same concept of Modeh, and we're going to have shiurim Be'ezrat Hashem throughout this coming month. Stay tuned to your WhatsApps, please, and emails, and great events. And hopefully right after the Chagim, we'll jump right back into the Modeh. Thank you very much. Yeshar Koach.
Thank you.